Hey guys, what have you
Hey,
guys been up to?
Hey, another week, another Svelte week, I guess. I don't
Yeah,
know.
another 2 weeks, another bye week.
Bye
I
week.
don't know.
yeah, it's better than what it was before, right? So, so what have you guys been up to? Have you done anything fun the last two
I guess
weeks?
we should do a quick round of self intros, just because like maybe people don't know places and maybe they don't know who we are. So,
That's true.
Kev, you want to kick it off?
Go ahead.
Yeah.
Oh, I was talking to Kev.
Oh, sorry. You were cutting off, so I
uh,
thought you. Yeah. All right. Yeah. So I guess I run Svelte School and I work for a company called BuddyBase, building a no code tool. And I'm also very very into the Svelte community. So I run a couple of things. Last week I've been working on the Svelte School tutorials page, which I'm about to launch tomorrow. I think maybe by the time this is out. So that's fun.
Nice.
That's exciting.
First
What?
article is going to be on actions. So
You love
Of
of
action.
course.
course.
Kev's favorite actions.
Yeah, yeah. All right. Yeah.
Who's next?
Sean, you.
Okay. Hi, I'm Sean. I am normally living in New York, where I helped to start the Svelte Society meetup because Rich is there. Um, and but now I've been displaced because of the virus in Singapore. So I'm calling in from 3 p.m. my time. And yeah, so and I'm between jobs. So for the past couple of months, I've been a full-time author. It's coming down to the wire for for my book. I'm launching it next week, and yeah, just trying to tie in all the marketing details together and like setting up the page. I think I'm going to be writing my page as well, like just the landing page and stuff. Nothing amazing, but I don't know. It's just I have a lot of sympathy for like the Svelte way of doing things, and it's just an interesting time to be talking about things. Like this week I wrote an article that kind of took off, like talking about the third age of JavaScript and what we can do to make our tools better and faster. And I think Svelte is a part of that.
Cool. Okay, so my name's Anthony Jones. I'm a maintainer of Svelte. I'm also the co-founder of a adventure software company called Beyonc. We provide software for experience providers. Strange name, I know, but there you go. It's like the word beyond with a K on the end. I also started the London Svelte meetup, which weirdly enough occurred on the exact same first day as the Svelte NYC one. The goal
Well,
being to be
you,
a
you
worldwide
started
thing.
it. You started it first, and then I was like, "Hey, we have Rich in New York. We better have
Yeah,
that as well."
you
I
actually
think
had Rich.
the Stockholm one was also like the same day or a day after or a day before or something like that.
Yeah, I mean, there was a view to have it worldwide, right? But it's quite difficult to do everything at the same time because obviously, wherever, if Sean, you're in Malaysia, then 3 p.m. is 8 a.m. our time. It's a terrible time for a meetup. It's a terrible time for eating pizza and drinking beer. So
Yeah,
maybe it's not always possible to do the worldwide thing, but we tried. Hey, the same day is good.
Same day is pretty good.
Yeah,
yeah, for sure.
cool.
All
That's
right.
me.
Yeah. Right. Should we get into the topics?
Yeah,
Let's
so
do it.
we have a bunch of like I think there's like 12 topics. Some of them are not that long. Some of them are a bit longer. The first one is Rich Harris's article on in defense of the modern web. What do you think of these?
It, yeah. I mean, I haven't. I'm not sure I have read it actually. I skimmed it. I think.
Right. So
So
this is
if you,
basically a response to in someone named Tom McWright. He wrote this article on second guessing the modern web and basically just kind of criticizing the way that we build sites like with static site generators and frameworks first, and then rehydrating everything. We server render and then we rehydrate on the clients. And he was like, yeah, we don't need that. We can just write raw HTML and or use a non-JS static site generator. Just generate raw HTML, and that is guaranteed to render faster because uh, there's no JavaScript that's ever run. So it's the whole like I can do this without JavaScript. Why are you using JavaScript debate? And I think Rich, like appreciated that. He's also very bored, which is very good for Svelte. And,
Oh yeah, I remember actually reading this.
yeah.
It's about the animations and stuff, right? With like how it's not possible to really make native application style applications yet, right? As well, like if
there's a lot in here. Like there's a lot of cutting concerns, and honestly, like I feel like one side doesn't really have the same priorities as the other. We're just making different things. That's why I always tend to say like like obviously using the right tool for the job. Like if you're really sure that all you want is HTML, then you don't have to use Svelte at all, of course. But I think a lot of people also think about the subsequent navigation. Like people actually push back on his assumption that like, hey, raw HTML is actually faster because you click around. People are like, I click around your site and it doesn't feel as fast to me as a Gatsby site where it can automatically preload or only re-renders based on JSON blobs, right? So those are the things like, and it's a very complicated discussion for me because like a lot of times people visit one page and then they bounce, right? So you actually should be optimizing for single load. Whereas JS frameworks with client-side running, you're actually optimizing for subsequent load. And maybe people don't click around every single article on your site. they literally come to your site, they get their thing, and then they piece.
Yeah. It's very likely that that's the case, yeah. And I think what I've noticed when you do a Sapper export, actually, is it does bundle everything into each page, so it makes the individual page size better. So I think it actually makes it bigger. I think it is optimized for a single view of a single page, which is, I don't know, yeah, good or bad. I think my personal thoughts on this are obviously like, I agree with Rich. Apart from linting rules, I agree with Rich across the board with everything. Is linting rules and code style? I mean, I couldn't disagree more if I tried, right? But no, what he's saying is right, and I think another bit of this is it's sort of your cognitive overhead, right? If you're writing dynamic sites all day and you want to produce a static site, the ability to write that static site using the exact same tool in the exact same languages you use for your dynamic sites you can't underestimate that. The developer experience of that, not having to switch between two modes, is invaluable.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I did.
I mean, for the Svelte Society Day website, I actually did it in Svelte and then just removed the JavaScript bundle.
Yeah,
so
that's a completely better way to do it.
Yeah, but it's irritating to have to go in and like switch off the bundle or turn it on depending on like.
Yeah, I mean, you could maybe automate that. I'm not sure, but
I'm sure.
I think the thing is, we have this notion, or I say we, the community maybe has this notion that we should over optimize first, as if we're going to receive 1 million users, or if everyone's going to use like a connection with no data at all. Now, granted, we should accommodate these type of users, but I don't think we need to over optimize our sites up front. I think there's a value in saying, well, I want to produce something, and it's either the difference in me producing it the way I want to, or not producing it because I've got to over optimize and it's become a burden. It's better that the content's there, right?
Yeah,
definitely. Yeah.
So Rich ends the article with like talking about how I think this is an uprising thing that's coming with frameworks. Like he mentions the future I want to see is one with tooling that's accessible to the greatest number of people, including designers. I think that just means he wants to write raw CSS, and then can intelligently move work between server and client as appropriate. And I think that's something that React is looking into as well. So basically a tighter integration between server and client, and just saying like, if it can be done on the server, let's only do on the server and not send the JavaScript over. Which means we need a way to mark, what parts of the site needs to be in JS and what parts don't. The way that Next.js does it is they just have a separate lifecycle that says like, this is a static page and everything here is static. They still send the JavaScript number, but I think there's more. The way that this article rose to prominence was Dan Abramoff saying like, this is the future direction of React. So that's pretty notable that people are saying that.
You want to drop in a note about SSG here, Sean?
Oh, I mean, like, well, so like the intention of SSG is that, yeah. So like it should be like my like the way that it's designed right now. It's just a simple overlay over Sapper. So it doesn't really do anything more apart from like fix some of the data fetching paradigms of Sapper. But what we really want is to send raw HTML where needed. So it's going to opt out of client-side routing, but it's going to opt in to that use Svelte components for everything model, which is the developer experience that we like. And so the main vision is to send the main page as raw. It's just HTML with no JavaScript, and then have simple APIs to to make certain pages, certain parts of the pages interactive. I have a rough idea of how I'm going to do it. I think it probably is going to involve some Webpack mastery, which I don't have yet. But I'm sort of like that's in the back of my mind of something that should exist, and no one's doing it. So like eventually I might have to do it. But I am putting it off because I need to make money first.
Yeah, same thing.
So, yeah, I was going to ask, how do you think you're going to have time for this?
I mean, I'm with any luck, I'm starting my job at AWS the following Monday, and I will have more of a stable sort of life situation, and be able to just hack on things without actually worrying about like, is this a good use of time? Because
yeah, makes sense.
All that. So yeah. That's what I'm thinking about. But like, yeah, SSG, like, so the next item that we're actually going to talk about is the syntax FM, like the stuff from Scott Zolinsky, who's been writing a tutorial on syntax.fm, and he's actually been mentioning the SSG project a couple times because he rebuilt his own site with Svelte, which is great for us because now the Syntax Duo, which is one of the sort of most popular front-end framework podcasts, when one of the hosts is all in on React and the other host is kind of like dangling his feet in Svelte now, which is very interesting.
That's cool.
But he keeps mentioning SSG, and I'm like, dude, like I'm not ready for users. Like,
yeah, because sometimes a good idea can produce a team of contributors who will make your ideas real.
So what I really should do is just like write a design doc and go like, okay, someone build this, please.
Yeah. I think the Jake from Routify is also going to start working on a framework with Rixo, I think. I'm not sure though. So a lot of frameworks. That's good though.
Is this Roxy?
Roxy?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. There's a framework called Roxy so Routify came along and that was Jake as well, and kind of started some ideas. But I think there's a view to making a very modular framework. You can pull in and out bits that you don't do or don't want. And I think they've called that Roxy. So it's all kind of conceptual right now, but that's what they're working on. And it would be initially similar to Sapper, I guess, but then it would move into being similar to Svelte as well. And then they've got an idea to make it very modular, so you can actually make it something completely different. But underneath, it's always using Svelte.
It's awesome.
Yeah, the more the merrier, right?
More the merrier.
Yeah, absolutely.
Cool. Shall we move on to the next item?
Let's do it.
This is weird. Never done a conference talk from my kitchen camp.
I'm trying. I'm trying to.
You're playing it.
Did Rich just join the podcast?
The podcast. Well, yeah. Anyway, so yeah, I'm still halfway through listening to this podcast. So this is Syntax.fm show 250. Scott teaching Wes Boss Svelte and Sapper.
I listened to it.
Sorry,
it's good. I listened to it. It's good.
Yeah, it's cool. It's still a lot of like basic introductory stuff, but like the more like they have a wide audience, and most of them are not going to know about Svelte. So it's still really good information. Scott obviously explains things really well. So and which ties into the next point that I have as well, which is he actually released a whole YouTube tutorial series on his channel, Level Up Tutorials, and he's integrating Svelte with Meteor, which is his favorite framework. I mean, it's great to watch. Like I got my start with Meteor, actually. Like the only way I became a full stack developer was I just copied a bunch of Meteor tutorials. Which like doesn't teach you anything, right? Meteor does so much for you that you just like, I don't know, like, okay, I'll just do whatever Meteor says. And then the moment you run into problems, you get stuck. But I think if you actually stick with it for years, like Scott has, then it actually becomes a very productive tool. So
I was very impressed with it, when I first used it, Meteor. But the problem, I guess, for me was I genuinely thought it was dead. I thought no one was using it anymore. Apart from people who are kind of locked in, and I'm going to get in trouble for saying that, but I genuinely had not heard of it in years.
Yeah.
I mean, like
for a while.
If you go on Hacker News and type like "is Meteor dead" in the search, you see like every people like "ask HN is Meteor dead," and like people keep denying it, but like how many times do you have to deny it until it's true? Like,
well, it's a bit like the same question we get. Is Sapper dead? The answer is no, obviously, but the fact it's not, shouting, it doesn't mean it's dead. It's just we're working on it slowly in the background.
Yeah. Cool. Yeah. So next item that we have is the. This is a small thing because I didn't see it, but Microsoft Build, their annual developers conference, obviously went fully online, and they built a whole demo app itself. And I just kind of threw that in there.
You say this is a small thing, but actually, I guess it's a small, like a mini announcement, but it's quite a big thing. If you look at the demo they produced, they're showcasing one of their new flagship products, and they've got 4 frameworks up there, and one of those frameworks is Svelte. I mean, that's I would say it's quite a big thing, especially for Svelte, it's quite a big thing. But I think even more notable, and again, I only watched bits of it because I was busy, but. One of the really important things is the actual demo that they were doing during the conference, despite having 4 languages available, was a Svelte demo. So they actually did the showcase and the launch in Svelte, which is actually, I mean, that's amazing, right? That was their choice of framework. So yeah, I would say it's quite a. I mean, it's not to say it's not a small thing, but it's quite a big thing actually. I think in terms of community and sort of visibility of Svelte and stuff in the wide world.
Yeah. I think people are like it's just like the right tool for doing demos like this because you don't have to like, especially with React, like you have to import a bunch of like CSS and JS libraries and stuff like that. Like there's a lot of setup, and it's probably get a lot out of the box. And I think that's probably like as someone who does demos professionally, like that's what appeals to me.
Yeah. That's exactly it. I mean, it's also Svelte will be the fastest out of all the frameworks available there. Just on raw speed alone for a demo, especially because it's quite small and self-contained, that's going to be a bonus for that. So yeah, it's cool. It's very cool.
Yeah, awesome. If you can find a link for that stream, because all I have is Tierney Saren's tweet.
I can. I'll leave it in the notes for sure.
All right, yeah, who's got this Google framework thing?
Yeah, so I don't know if you've seen this. I don't know if many people have seen this. I don't think it's really released yet, but it looks like Google is working on like a big query, like JavaScript benchmarking thing. So they query like hundreds of thousands of sites, and they measure like the new Web Vitals thing. Have you heard about that?
No, can you introduce it?
Yeah. So
I haven't looked into it.
I think you posted this in the Discord the other day, right? You posted a link to this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think it's just a new way of measuring like how good your site is, basically. So if you take a look at the new Lighthouse version 6, it has things like render blocking time and stuff like this added to it. So I guess this benchmark it kind of measures this over a large amount of sites, and it shows you like how many of the sites are good and how many needs improvement and how many are bad. Pretty much.
And I think also, is this a tool that's actually written in Svelte as well?
Yes.
That's interesting.
Wow. So wait, hang on. Google and Microsoft are using Svelte.
Yeah,
that's right.
So this benchmark, I downloaded it and ran it, and I don't know if it's the real data yet, but it looked very, very, very good for Svelte. Pretty much topped all of the benchmarks. So that.
Right. I just thought
that's cool.
So it seems like this is a relatively new thing. They just announced it on. I'm on the Chromium blog. They announced it on May 5th, 2020. So like less than a month ago. And the three things that the three new metrics are largest contentful paint, first input delay, and cumulative layout shift, which like relayouting and all that. These are good metrics. And we just get them for free. That's great.
Reflowing your layout's actually quite an expensive operation, isn't it? That's something that it will get heavily penalized by a tool like this. So it's good to see that's in there.
Yeah.
Definitely boom for SSR. If you're if you're rendering it statically first, it doesn't need to reflow the layout. That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
So
this is actually written by Ilya Grigorik, who wrote the high performance networking book, which like is super influential among perf people. And he gave this talk, which I was really influenced by. I think it was like Perf Matters or like Performance on Now, so one of the European talks. And he was like saying, we have all these like ways of like yelling at each other about JavaScript bundle size and all that. But for him, he was like, in order to get to the next level, to the broader audience of people who don't care about like web dev perf stuff, we need to have different ways of communicating. What acceptable web performance looks like. And so I think this Web Vitals thing is basically the ultimate vision of that. That's a very good talk. Basically saying like there's in terms of adoption, like, there's this curve. It's like a snake or like a hill, right? And a lot of us are at the head because we spend our free time talking about this, and then we go to conferences and we listen to each other talk about this, and we're only talking to each other in language that we understand. But then there's the body and then there's the tail. And to shift concepts from the head to the body to the tail always requires some sort of perception shift and some sort of marketing shift, or whatever you call it. And so for him, it was like, let's actually just like make some more clear metrics. And I think this is the ultimate vision of that. It's a great talk. I want to look it up in the notes.
I guess we'll link it in the notes.
Yeah. Sounds good.
Yeah. All right.
Awesome.
Azure static sites. I guess we've already talked about that, kind of.
I mean, it's just another tweet, isn't it, by the guy who kind of spearheaded that project. So we can link that in notes as well. It's an interesting one.
Yeah. All right. Should we go with keying stuff?
Yeah.
Okay, so this is my thing. What is this? So the reason I brought this up is because I'm not sure how to do this in Svelte. So the approximate cause of this tweet was this thread was Sebastian Markboga from the React team saying you need I'll just read it out. He says, my first contribution to React was the heuristic for key warning. In my opinion, it has worked fairly well to avoid a set of problems, but it's given the misinterpretation that only lists need keys. You need keys on single items too. In a master detail, the detail should have a key. So what we're talking about here is, for example, if you're writing Slack, right, and you're jumping between channels, and you have a half complete message in one channel, and then you sort of switch the message. If you use reconciliation, then it's and you don't like sort of throw away all state and then re-render everything from scratch. You might have some leftover state in some of the components that don't get swapped out. Like they just have this perspective that some props have changed, fine, but I still have local state in my component, and I should persist that, right? Because that's all I do. So this whole idea, the way that React uses keys is that like if any keys change, it's just going to revalidate the entire part of that tree, right? And that's a philosophy of React, which is the React is going to err on the side of re-rendering everything and making sure you have consistent data, so a consistent sort of state with your data. And that's something that Svelte like does the opposite of, right? We choose to persist everything if possible and not re-render anything unless we migrate with like the dollar label syntax. So I mean, I guess the main doubt I had, which I raised with you guys, and I think we agreed that we can have this chat, was basically like how do we how do we know when a prop has changed, and how do we react to that change, right? And maybe have a um, maybe also react to differences in changes, right? Like if a prop is updated from like old value to new value, we need to take new value minus old value and then calculate something. And it turns out, because I haven't used Svelte before Svelte 3, it turns out that there was a mechanism for this in Svelte 2, right? Maybe you guys want to talk about that.
Yeah, I have no idea about this Svelte 2 stuff. So
Yeah, I mean,
go
to
ahead.
be honest, it's gone from my mind a bit. Svelte 2, the way that it works now, it seems very alien to me. I don't remember how it worked, actually. I mean, I never knew the internals of Svelte 2 at that time anyway. I barely know the internals of Svelte 3, but I definitely didn't know the internals of Svelte 2. I was very much a consumer of it.
It's not an internals thing. It's just more like Svelte 2 exposed an API that says like, it was like, prop, I don't know, like before and after, and then
yeah,
you could calculate yourself if you wanted to.
Oh, so what there was two, because Svelte 2 worked as an object you could export. Every component was an object that got exported, a default export. And it had a bunch of properties on it which relate now to the kind of hook style things that we have in Svelte 3. And it had it was something like before update, after update. Yeah, they were named like that. But what it gave you, which Svelte 3 doesn't, is it gave you one is like an object with a list of keys that are true if that property is changed in the component. And this is 5 for every change. And then the second thing it gave you was the current, like the new state of the component. And the third thing it gave you was the previous state of the component. So you could always compare, and you could not only immediately see what had changed, but you could also see the old and new value, which is great for things like undo or persisting in old state or doing all sorts of comparisons. And that's actually a lot harder to do in Svelte 3. I'm not sure why the decision was made and why the state hooks that are in Svelte 3 can't have those things passed into them as parameters. I think I even questioned this recently. But yeah, so actually there was I wouldn't say better mechanism, because a lot of things in Svelte 2 weren't better, but definitely a different mechanism for managing state that way that may have made some tasks easier.
Maybe I've jumped a little bit too far into like the way I would solve it. But like, how would do you first of all, do you both understand the problem that we're talking about, like refreshing components when you switch?
Yeah, to an extent, I understand.
Right. I don't think there's a way to do that in Svelte.
It's entirely possible that there isn't a way. Actually, it's entirely possible.
That seems like a pretty big detail.
Yeah, I mean, sorry, I have a lot of trust in Svelte's, the way it handles what should and what shouldn't be re-rendered on a page. But then I'm no expert in efficient rendering and non-efficient rendering. So
this isn't about efficiency. This is more about just like, do we have a way to model some sort of behavior that we want, right? And in this case, it's this whole idea of like, how do we re-render entire trees? Like, Svelte doesn't.
So I think you can actually solve this with
each.
Yeah, exactly. So, but that's kind of weird.
Like
you
stick
right? one. Yeah, it's hacky. It's you stick one item in an each. Like make it an iterable, and then you go.
and then
add a key to it and hope that it works.
Okay. I think basically the only way for me to figure this out is actually to build it myself and satisfy my own curiosity. But I mean, I think it's an interesting problem that actually made me question, like, is this, because like for me, this is really goes down to the fundamentals of like, what is the difference between React and Svelte? React re-renders everything by default and Svelte doesn't. Most of the time, this is a benefit, except for stuff like this.
It's reasonable. Yes. I mean, there's always that mystery for new users, especially where if you change an item that exists inside an array or inside an object.
I trip that up. Yeah.
I still trip myself sometimes on it, and it is a weird one, and the reason's been explained a million times, and I still probably don't fully understand it, but certainly the way that reactivity works is probably beneficial again for rendering, but not for the sort of logically how your app would work.
Yeah. Oh well. Well, I guess I'll update again when I build that because it's not that hard. I just want to make sure that we have a. And I think this is probably one of the things for the recipe list.
Yeah.
If you need to reinvalidate a whole set of trees, how do you do that best?
Yeah.
I really don't want to recommend having a single each.
And if you get around to doing this, knocking this prototype up, then maybe that'll be quite a nice follow up in the next podcast as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Perfect. Okay.
All right.
Who's got this?
So I think someone said something about a pub quiz.
Yeah, I mentioned in the channel that cause I was thinking, people asking questions in Discord about, who said this the other day, who tweeted this, whatever. And I thought, well, I don't really know actually, but it'd make a good pub quiz. So maybe there's scope for having at some point a sort of weird, Jitsi or whatever based pub quiz where everyone can join in and we can ask ridiculous questions that only somebody who religiously followed Rich on Twitter would get or something,
That sounds like a lot of fun.
it could be fun. Who knows? It could be fun.
So fun fact, in React we have some really good meetups, and I won these pair of $200 headphones.
Wow!
Based on a pub quiz exactly like that. One of the questions was literally, "What did Danny Vermont tweet today?" And the room had no idea, and I was just like, I answered it because I happened to see it. So
that's bizarre.
I guess you religiously followed Dan Abramov,
right? Yeah. He's a pretty good way to learn React. So
yeah.
It wasn't a bad strategy.
All right. So yeah, this TypeScript support, how's that coming along?
Yeah.
It sounds like it's coming along quite nicely, right?
Don't give people hope. I don't know. Yeah.
I wrote this question actually, but the reason I did it actually is because my wife has started using Svelte now. So she had a little idea for like a little project she wanted to build, and she started using Svelte for it. And the only reason she's considered Svelte is because it has TypeScript. So she literally is those people who can't use a framework without TypeScript, right? But the thing that struck me quite interesting was that she actually got up and started with it quite easily. And yeah, the TypeScript support really does work. And
what did she use? Which of the attempts? Are we talking about the language server that's being developed?
Well, do you know what? I actually don't know. What she does is she's writing Svelte components with types actually in them, and she's declaring interfaces and all that sort of cool stuff. To me it looks like what I would imagine a Svelte component written in TypeScript is, and it's using lang equals ts. I'm assuming it uses the language server. She's using the VS Code plugin, so that uses the language server. But this is what I say to the case. What I'm seeing in the channel is people are saying that the support is actually really good now, and for most people it should be in a good enough state to use as their main thing and actually build full applications using TypeScript. I don't claim to know anything about TypeScript, but it's certainly interesting.
I think so. It's probably a bit hard to there aren't any guides. I think, for example, like a tutorial showing you exactly how to make the new beta plugin work with the preprocessor.
Yeah,
all this stuff.
I think it's maybe too early for that, right? Because if it's literally in development and it's just coming to fruition now, it's going to take a little bit of a lag till the guides arrive.
I mean, my question is, who's working on it?
A guy called Orta, who I believe is from the main TypeScript team. He kind of spearheads it, and then there's a bunch of other people who want to use TypeScript who've been contributing to that language tools repository on GitHub. Yeah.
My understanding, and I could be wrong, but my understanding was Orta just kicked it off, and his intention was never to get super involved.
Sure.
I know him, so
yeah. Oh, well, there you go.
And so I think what I've been looking for, and again, this is one of my someday I'm going to get to this project if no one gets it first. is someone spearheading this thing, and there's been various attempts, but I hadn't seen sustained effort, which is why I was I've been more skeptical about progress. I mean, obviously it's gonna eventually happen. It's just someone needs to take charge, and it's something that I would love to pick up on, just because I think basically every dev tool is trending towards having a language server. Is like it used to be the norm that when we code, we just edit text files, right? And then we'll run something. Right now and now we're moving towards a phase where we have a running server as we code that gives us suggestions, that gives us links and checking and criticifying and all that. And so I think this is a very important development in all of that tooling, and I think Svelte is really having that grown. I don't know if like the progress has been as substantial as you say. Like I think what your wife is seeing is the pre-processing within the script tag, but maybe not the language that everyone's waiting for.
Yeah, I think there's been more progress actually. From what I understand, I haven't tried it out. But if you look at the in the language tools Discord and you follow the repo, it shows some pretty
Discord language tools?
No,
the
Discord
channel. Yeah, language tools. Yeah. So
I mean, sorry, Karen.
Yeah. So the repo shows some activity, so it's not like nothing's happening.
Okay.
Obviously,
it's not fully baked yet, but.
Yeah, I was just going to say, okay, it's always the most recently active repository on the Svelte GitHub organization. From what I can see, I don't really understand exactly what's going on there, but it seems to me like there's definitely people rallying around it and working on it. So, but yes, I think, Sean, you're right in that what my wife is actually using is just TypeScript in the script block in a component. Yeah, pre-processing, which is also now a core part of Svelte, right? We've taken on the Svelte preprocess is an official project, so
right.
Hopefully that helps tie things together a bit.
We should have. So I see some names: Half Nelson and Martin.
Yeah.
We should have one of these people on and just like get them to walk us through, because I mean, if I want to contribute, I don't know where to start, and probably it'd be good to have them on as probably our first guest.
Yeah, that would be very cool. I like that. Yeah,
that sounds good.
Which is a nice segue into the next thing.
Yeah. So I mean, so what this is around new contributors. So I'm seeing more and more people come to the Discord and asking about how they can contribute to the project. And granted, we haven't put a huge amount of time into making this easy for newcomers, and Svelte can be kind of quite a big wall to climb. It's quite a steep learning curve to get involved in it. What we've tried to do is tag some sort of easier or more understandable issues as new issues. Good first issue, the standard kind of GitHub thing. So you can filter the issues on GitHub by that label. The contributing MD has been brought up to date, although it's quite a large wall of text at the moment. So we hope to improve that over time. And again, talking to the Discord and asking in the internals channel or whatever about how to do the exact part of Svelte you want to do is going to be probably a good first step, and then we can give you more guidance. So it's something we're actively working on, but it's not something we've actually put a lot of time into right now. Small isolated PRs, if you're going to add a feature, ideally there's a bug backing the feature you want to create or the PR you're trying to create, or the issue you're trying to fix. And then again, like tests are really important so we don't get regressions. Ideally not, trying to change too much in one PR, keeping it very isolated is probably the most important thing. Because the time, the bigger the PR, the more time there is involved in actually vetting that PR and determining that what it's doing is not going to break things for users, or it's not going to have an unwanted side effects and things like that. So yeah, just that basically.
Sounds good.
So it sounds good. I think it's always very needed, and I'm always like very frustrated with contributing the MDs that basically tell you to clone the project and install dependencies. Not very helpful.
Yeah. So actually, it's probably worth saying that both Sapper and Svelte projects, if you check them out, they follow the kind of standard Svelte project template whereby you can run npm run dev, and it's going to live reload your dependencies. So it'll actually build a copy of Svelte you can npm link into your other project, and it will live reload that every time you change the Svelte core code base. The same with the Sapper code base. If you're working on docs, so you're going to be editing the actual websites, those are contained within those projects in the site directory. And that's exactly the same thing. It's got its own set of dependencies. You do npm run dev, and you've got a live reloading version of the site that you can edit. So I think the idea is convention over configuration. It's running the same process you would use to create a Svelte app from the template. So yeah, it is very much like check it out and do this, but it's a work in progress to improve that.
Yeah, I think for me, as you know, I'm not a maintainer. I do like, I probably should do more in terms of like helping to solve those first issues, because I haven't done that much. But one thing I am looking for is like some sort of roadmap. Um, the one, I think there can be a lot of perception. This is, and again, this is a lot of my wheelhouse, like perception of momentum, right? Like in much the same way that we have problems, so like we have merging of stuff in, but we don't really have like major versions, or not major versions, minor versions, where we actually sort of group features up and say like, this is a new thing in Svelte, everyone please know about it. And then having some sort of progression and direction, like this is what we're building for the next 6 months and 6 to 12 months, and having people rally around that. Like if it's just bug fixes, fine. But like I think something that really inspires people is to not only contribute but also use the projects is an idea of the future direction. And I think that's something that we're
it's for sure like a marketing thing as well, right?
Totally. To the point where
new people.
So I've been involved in this interesting discussion of CSS4. You all know about it?
No.
I don't.
So there is such a thing as CSS1 and CSS2, but there's actually no such thing as CSS3. CSS3 is just a marketing term because the CSS working group split everything up into like 15 different, very hard to follow working groups, and all of them have different stages, and you're supposed to keep track of all of them. Surprising, not to anyone's surprise, they realized that this is very hard to follow.
Sure.
So now that, okay, they're like, we like the working groups, but now let's like collectively get together and decide what is CSS for, and have a marketing push for people to adopt like the latest features. And it's stuff that you already know, like grid and stuff like that. But just to have like some sort of step change in, like everybody should be upgrading to this now. And so that's an interesting. Apparently, this happened for other things as well, like CSS5. I'm not sure what this formal spec for that is, but apparently, like versions matter is my conclusion. Like,
isn't that what Google did with Google Chrome? They just switched to like a 2-week major version bump schedule or something like that. Or was it 2 months? Something like that.
They have like 1,000 people on this, and very.
Oh yeah. I mean that we can't do that, of course, but
yeah. Well, I think the Svelte versioning is based on Semver very strictly, right? It's based on we're not bumping the major version unless it's a completely different language. Almost, we're not bumping the minor version unless it's a sort of a significant change. And the patch version is the one that usually gets bumped. I guess that's it is what it is, I guess. That's the only way you can say it. There's not much consideration that's being put into a marketing sort of process for it. But I think that maybe in the future that might be a nice thing to have, because again, I do agree that it is important to have versions reflect progress in a framework. With regard to roadmaps, actually, we do have roadmaps now. I actually built them. They're in the GitHub projects for each project. They're not by any means comprehensive, because I built them when Rich was on hiatus. And obviously I don't want to be the one who defines the roadmap for Svelte, right? There are just things in there that I know are in the pipeline or upcoming or have a significant focus. So those have been put in there. But generally, it is something we hope to build out very soon, to actually have a more definitive roadmap of what's coming. It probably won't affect the versioning right now, but it's a step in the right direction. So
where do we find this? I'm on this.
Yeah, so the roadmaps are, if you go to GitHub and Svelte or Sapper project, there's a tab in the GitHub called project, I think, the project boards. And there should be one in each called roadmap.
Okay.
It has things like router and TypeScript and stuff in it right now.
Ooh.
And live reloading. Not live reloading, hot model reloading.
Yeah, that's going to be nice.
Someone's so Lihao from Yeah, you guys know Lihao. He's working on a. So I'm very excited by what Evan Yu is doing on Vite. Apparently, it's pronounced Vite.
That's right. Yeah.
I prefer Vite, but I didn't make it. So anyway, and it's very exciting. It means it makes for very fast reloads during dev.
Yeah.
And it just makes sense. Anyway, so Lihao's working on a Svelte version of this, and I think that would take care of hot module reloading basically. Like seems like it's just built into the browser if you just refresh the module.
Yeah, which is really awesome. It's a weird one because obviously I think Rixo started off the HMR thing with Rollup, and that's now some of that support being merged into Svelte Core, which is great. There's some hooks in there now. But what's also happened at the same time is he started experimenting with Nollup, which is basically Rollup without the tree shaking, so it's a lot faster. I believe it's almost instant. But at the same time as that, Snowpack was there, and so he built a Snowpack one as well. The Snowpack maintainer's now perked up and taken an interest, so he's willing to do anything at all to try and forward the Sapper and Svelte support for Snowpack. And then at the same time, there's Vite or Vite or whatever it's called. So there's actually now 4 different ways that you could potentially get live reloading working to different levels. So it's going to be interesting to see which one we sort of latch onto. Vite, of course, uses Rollup under the hood, I think.
Got it.
Yeah.
Cool. That's all I got for this contributors thing. Have you got anything?
Yeah.
I'm good. I mean, contributors, if you want to contribute, come to the Svelte Discord and have a chat, and we'll see what we can do.
Yeah. All right. Next one. Official router.
So, do you have any information on this?
On
the router?
No. Other than it's now definitely planned. Router, who knows? It's definitely planned. It's definitely in the pipeline. It's something that's being discussed, which is good. But yeah, as for progress on it, no, so far we haven't done much on it now, other than start some preliminary discussions around how it will work. So the view is it will be maybe a component-based router, and one of the things I really want to get in there is root protection. So essentially, when you change root, checking against a sort of a guard to say, is this user allowed to access this root? I think those are two probably the most requested features. So hopefully it will follow at least those two things. It will come. It will come when it comes. There's definitely no definite schedules for it right now, but it will come.
Yeah, the authentication thing is something I've struggled with a little bit in the React world, and basically there's 2 ways of doing it. Like, what is if someone tries to access a route they don't have permissions to? Either you can kick them off to a login page, or you can and actually that's like, I think that's what most people do. You like redirect them somehow.
Yeah.
I think that actually the better experience and the better way to do it is just to render a login screen right in that route, and then once someone logs in, just stay at that route, don't jump them back and forth. Just stay at that route, and then just re-render with what they're supposed to have now that they're authenticated. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I know what you mean. And there's a third way. You can actually do like a sort of like a modal in the same route that will allow you to log in. There's obviously various complexities with that because you're essentially rendering the same route with different content. I don't think flicking between routes in an application that's an SPA is particularly heavy because it is effectively all a single page anyway. But yeah, I agree we should be flexible in that there should be an option to have different ways of doing that login screen. I actually don't mind linking to a login page with a notion of where I came from. But yeah, I think also having it in the same route without changing the URL or pushing the history state is actually quite desirable because it does mean you can maintain going back and forth between routes in your application once you're logged in. So yeah, it's definitely something interesting.
Yeah. Well, I hope that gets designed in.
I mean, it's an open source project, right? So we've got the router card in the roadmap. So feel free to add an issue to that or a task to that to say, how about if it did this?
Yeah.
It's an open consortium, I guess.
I'll be watching it for sure. Cool. I guess the last item is my thing. Did you have something? I don't know who put this in. Did you have something that you wanted to ask, or did you just want a general update?
No, I put it in because I just thought maybe it's worth a mention. It's interesting stuff. So
Yeah. Thanks. Yeah. So I've been writing this book for 2 months. It's 400 pages of dev career advice. I didn't know I had that much in me, but I think there's a lot to say that it's really surprising that there's so much content about. Just look at like dev career advice content. There's how to learn to code and get your first job, and then there's how to pass a technical interview, and that like apparently is like 90% of like if you look at just like the sheer amount of books and tutorial and like blog content and like how important this is. Actually, like the technical interview is like maybe half or like less than half of like what you interview for when you interview. Like the rest is like fit and like how do you market yourself, and then like forget the interview. Like once you got the job, like the other 99% of your time in the job, there's not that much guidance, and then there's like a big gap of like do whatever, and then somehow you come out as a senior engineer, and then everyone assumes that you want to be an engineering manager. So like the scope for like how do you become a good individual contributor, and how do you excel at that? I think is undercovered, and I think that's what I'm sort of targeting. Basically, I call it the early dev career, or I guess I also call it the coding career, like the part of your career where you're actually meant to code as the main part of your job, and instead of like managing design docs, whatever.
Yeah, meetings and all that sort of stuff. It's good because it's a vital thing. I think that people can enter. I mean, same as any industry, I suppose, but especially the dev industry, where it's quite a high bar in terms of like things you have to understand in order to sort of progress your career. I think it's nice to have that sort of guidance. So
yeah,
this is good.
Yeah, I've skimmed it a bit, and it looks nice. I have some chapters that I want to take a more detailed look at. But I'm curious though, like how do you find like you mentioned on Twitter, you were doing like editorial, you were sending it to editors and stuff?
Yeah.
How are you finding that? Is it the first time you're doing something like this?
Yeah, first time I'm doing something like this. Basically, I have a mentor who like has written a book before. So I asked him what he does, and then he was like, "Yeah, I just use wordy.com." So like Wordy, like WORDY, and they just have a bunch of professionally trained editors who will give you a quick turnaround on stuff that you send in. You just send in a Google Doc or a Word doc or a block of text, and they'll edit it for you. And it costs like something like 7 cents a word, and so for him it costs $500 to edit his whole book, which I thought was a reasonable reasonable expense given that he made like 70K on it. But I think for me it costs a lot more because I have so many pages.
Yeah.
So I was like this is great. It only costs $500, but no, it's like per word. So
you dug your own grave there, Sean.
Exactly, for trying to be comprehensive. And so I calculated. I spent some money on like doing some trials just to see also like I think not all editing is the same. Some editors you just work better with than others. So you just have to try a few times to see who you like and what style adds value to you, because some of them, like, sure, they'll change the capitalization and they'll change your dashes to M dashes, but it's not really adding value. You know what I mean? Like, they're not making your writing any clearer. So I think I engaged three editors from there, and I think 2 of them were good. And I'm just trying to figure out what works best. But I did work out that like if I was going to do this whole book edited, it probably costs something like $8,000 to $10,000.
Wow.
Which is way too much. So I cannot professionally edit all of it. I can just focus on the most important chapters in my book. I have to among all my children, I have to pick my most favorite children. And then because I have a sense of like what people are going to focus on because people know my writing and stuff. So I can at least make sure those are professionally edited, and then the rest can be a little bit more of a mismatch. That said, I have had volunteers from like people who follow my work to actually come in and edit. So right now I have a guy who Nat Sharp who's actually helping me. It was on a free basis, but now I'm paying a little bit, but definitely not as much as one of the professionals, just because he wants to help out. And that's really, it's really nice. Like for example, this is also my first like self-publishing book, so I don't know anything about typesetting for a book, right? I don't know the tool set and anything like that. So I published. I think the version that you got, Kev, is the one where I didn't know stuff, and it's really badly typeset. Then I had a professional book designer come in to my DMs and go like, "Yo, your book looks terrible. Let me."
Oh, wow.
Honesty.
It does look a lot better now. So, I mean, I learned a few things about how things are types are set within books, and basically, you need to learn latex for that. If you thought Svelte was, if you know JavaScript was complicated, you should learn latex.
Oh God.
Yes, I've seen latex a long time ago, and no.
Yes.
It's fun fact. They also do double pass rendering, which is like kind of like what you do in React for server side rendering. Anyway, yeah. So it's a whole education in like how to self-publish a book, and I think that's an interesting. You can't really figure out on your own because there's just a lot of like bad advice on Google, and you just need some friends who like have seen this before, and you can just lean on them and they'll help you out.
Sounds good. So what's the next step? What are you doing next? Are you doing some vlogs, right?
Yeah, so I'm vlogging every day because I think the launch period is something that's very crucial leading up to a launch. And I think other people, including myself, would want like a nice guide of like what's worked and what hasn't worked. Obviously, I haven't done this successfully before, so I'm just vlogging on my own and just like sort of recording my lessons as I go along for others to follow or make fun of. Yeah, so I've been vlogging since T-14, and then I'm counting down every day. So today is T-7, which means I have exactly 1 week to go. I'm planning to launch a free chapter on T-3, and then I'll soft launch in T-1. And the T-0 is the real launch. But I want to make sure that I have everything on the, at least on the like the payment side and all that working, so that people, I don't launch and then people can't like buy the book.
Cool.
The expectation is that I'll hopefully have like 1,000 people buying. I am giving a quarter of the sales to Free Code Camp, basically helping think towards the next generation of developers. I benefited a lot from Free Code Camp, and they need the money because right now there's more people than ever trying to learn to code, and not that many people trying to donate, which is like a perfect storm.
Yeah, I mean these like the Corona times probably came at a somewhat good time for writing a book, kind of, in a sense.
Well, I mean, the reason you're seeing so many people write a book is because I'm out of a job, right? So I'm right. I don't have any other source of income, so it's a little bit for myself. But then I felt a lot better once I worked out a deal with Free Code Camp that like, hey, I can just help you out as well with this book sales. Because like it's a natural progression. Like once you learn to code, you should learn everything else. So yeah.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah.
So I've been I think the main thing about launching there's so much launch advice, so much. Like, and I have a launch cheat sheet about like how do you prepare your launch tweet, what works on Product Hunt, what works on Hacker News, how do you what kind of landing page copy works, what kind of email titles and email sequences work. I think that the main principles that go above that are basically let everybody know when you're launching way ahead of time, and let them know how much work you're putting into it, so that they have confidence in recommending your work sight unseen. Like they just trust that you've done so much because you put in the work, and I think that's the main principle I'm following. As far as I'm concerned, if I do that and I screw up on everything else, it'll still be great. So.
Yeah, let's hope it works out for you.
Yeah.
All right. Should we get into the thing that every podcast has? Sick picks. Do you guys have any?
Ooh,
Do what? What do we have?
we didn't
Sick pics?
prepare this. So
No.
Yeah. That is true. I have one though.
I can go. I can go. You guys
Uh-huh.
can. Yeah, unless you have something.
Yeah, I have this. I started using this new like analytics site because I kind of don't like Google Analytics. So I want to give a shout out to a company called Plausible. They do like cookie-free analytics. Obviously, it's not as like you don't get as much information as you do from Google Analytics, but it's nice. It's pretty cheap.
Yeah, but you don't use those information anyway, right? But
Yeah, that's true.
aggregate statistics. That's all we care about.
Yeah.
Did you see that Project Wallace also is using Svelte? So there's a bunch of these like privacy-focused analytics companies. I think it's something that was kicked off by Fathom Analytics, which I know of. I don't know about your tool. And so I don't know. I'm just commenting that like one of the competitor companies is using Svelte, so maybe you should.
Oh, maybe I should use that. Yeah.
Yeah. Actually,
I'll check it out.
so yeah, I do have one actually. So Browserify, which I'm sure not Browserify, is that right? Browser Stack, which everyone obviously knows, because it's been around for a long time, but I've never really used it. Just heard about people saying it's good for testing in various browsers on various platforms. I applied for their open source account on behalf of the Svelte organization.
Right.
So they give you a certain quota, and they granted it within like a couple of hours, which is awesome. So now we have like a proper browser testing stack, which may then enable us to actually say definitively what browsers are and aren't supported, how you can support older browsers like IE11 and stuff like that in a more definitive sense, rather than relying on someone's particular laptop and stuff. So yeah, shout out to Browser Stack because they did a really good job.
Yay, Browser Stack.
It's an incredible product. I've never seen. I didn't know how good it could be. It's really, really impressive.
That's awesome. I should definitely try it out.
It even does. Sorry.
Do we support IE11?
So IE11 is supported, but you have to pass it through Babel, and you need a polyfill for like fetch and things like that if you're using fetch. So yeah, it is supported as is Old Edge. It's a small amount of either Buble or Babel config, but it does work.
Good, very good, very good.
Cool. I know just one more thing about Browser Stack actually. The thing that really impressed me was they give you local host access, so you're in a browser using a VM on a real machine somewhere in somewhere in America probably, and they give you a little script to download, and you run that script, and it will allow you to access localhost on your virtual on your browser instance, just like that. Zero
really
config.
Cool.
It's really impressive. Cool. So yeah, cool.
That's great. I don't know what to say about that. It's really like rocket science for me.
Yeah.
I'm more familiar with like mobile device farms. Like
it's got that too.
Have virtual phones and then they test it. So
yeah, it's got that too. It's got real devices.
Perf sensitive stuff and compatibility issues on mobile.
Cool.
That's important. For me, I shared my podcast listening history. I don't know if you guys are big podcasters. I'm basically permanently on podcasts. I have these like basically AirPod clones. Where are they? I don't know. Okay, I can't find them right now. But basically, my mom got me like $30 AirPod clones, and they're great. So
where can we get them?
Seems reasonable.
Bullshit. I'll put in the. I think I have the. They're Basius and Cook W01s. So I'll put that in our chat.
Cool.
If you want to check that out. But also, I just shared my listening history because my app shows me what I listen to the most. So the top podcast I listen to is Software Engineering Daily.
That's a good one.
That's a good generalist thing. And I've been on, which I consider a crowning achievement of my career. It's all downhill from here. And then Conan O'Brien Needs a Friend. So Conan's new podcast, and I think all the comedians are I don't know. Like I think comedians are very well served by switching to podcasts because it's just they don't have to perform for camera. They can just be funny on audio, and that's great.
Yeah.
And then yeah. So I just have this list. I highly recommend the Scrubs podcast. I don't know if you guys are watch Scrubs at all back in the day.
I used to a long time ago. Yeah.
So two actors, Zach Braff and Donald Faison, they're actual real best friends, and now they're doing a rewatch. So it's kind of inspired by this rewatch podcast. They rewatch everything, and they'll tell you what went on behind the scenes. And it's the two main actors, and they're really funny and they're really talented. So I've been enjoying that a lot.
Nice.
Yeah, sounds good. All right, that's
cool.
That's it, I guess.
That's it.
A wrap.
For another episode.
All right.
And thanks for organizing this as always, guys.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thanks, Kev.
Thanks to all the listeners as well for listening. Yeah. All right.